Public Meetings Act, and an advance notice required therein has been provided. Meeting notice is also posted in the boardroom of the upper school campus, sent to the Courier News, Star Ledger, Express Times, and the Hunterdon County Democrat, and sent to the clerks of Delaware Township, East Amwell Township, Flemington Borough, Raritan Township, and Reddington Township. The public will have opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Please stand for a flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jimlyn, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Davidson,
Here.
Mrs. Hughes,
Here.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Here.
Mr. Nickel,
Here.
Mr. Richard,
Here.
Mrs. O'Donnell, Mr. Panico,
Here.
Dr. Charney,
Here.
Dr. Nguyen,
Here.
Thank you, gentlemen. Earlier this week, was it Dr. Moore? Hunterdon Central, earlier last week, Hunterdon Central, and the family that we have here of teachers lost somebody who has been a longtime fixture here at Hunterdon Central with the passing of Mary Driscoll. Ms. Driscoll was a gym teacher here and a coach for many, many years, and she affected the lives of many students. So I'm just going to ask everybody to rise one more time for a quick moment of silence, please. Thank you. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the regular and executive session minutes of the April 26th meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hughes,
Yes.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Yes.
Mr. Nickel,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Abstain. I was absent.
Mr. Panico,
Yes.
Dr. Charney,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, do we have a student council report from Emma Wilson and Uriah Kale?
We do, Mr. Panico, thank you. I see them in the audience. I'm just gonna bring them up to the panel. Bear with me, Aria and Emma. Let me just grab both of you. Here comes Aria and Emma. Okay, so you are both now on the panel and you can go ahead and deliver your report. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma. I'm a sophomore here at Hunterdon Central and I'm a member of Student Council. So I'm gonna go through a few things that Student Council is planning on doing for the rest of the year, and then I'll pass it over to Aria to talk about our big project that we want to do. So first, unfortunately, Senior Central will not take place this year, but we are looking forward to revitalizing the event next school year. The other thing we wanted to do was building off of our Grain for Hope free rice activity and taking on the idea of gratitude. We were considering writing letters to those serving abroad at the end of the month for Memorial Day. And a possible connection that we might use for this is the Soldier Support Club. And now I'll turn it over to Aria to talk about the time capsule of this year project.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Aria Kale, and our big event that we really wanted to have this year was our time capsule activity. I'm sure you guys all know this year has been like none other. It's been really crazy, but Central has done such a great job with trying to keep it as normal as possible. We really wanted to have something to represent it, so we thought, why not make a video? We were thinking that sports teams, clubs, activities, teachers and students can take videos and little clips of their day, kind of, showing the one-way hallways and the masks and how this year has been different, nothing like we've ever seen before, and, try to just show that, and we could send those in and create a video. We were thinking that Mr. Phillip would be a really good person because he has experience, because his class made a project which was called A Year Like No Other. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about how we wanted to partner with Rho Kappa for this as well. And we were planning on creating bulletin boards and decorating them for each grade. Just talking about how this year has been really unique for everyone, and we were thinking about working with the class council. We thought that it would be a really great idea to kind of just have everyone come together, and it'll, show that no one's really alone and everyone's getting through this school year, even though it's been really different. That's all we have for today. I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a really great rest of their evening.
Yes, thank you again. Student council was not planning on attending the next board meeting, so we wanted to thank you for having us at all of the other ones. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your updates this school year. And have a great summer. I think it's
Can I say
officially
real quick as
Yeah.
well, I just want to thank you two, and also Ms. Panzita, Ms. Ulbrich, Mr. Spencer, Mr. Brandt, for all of the reopening or reporting rather from student council over the course of the year. It's been great to hear all of your suggestions and ideas, and also really pleased with the process. All of our different student organizations coming together, giving updates and information to student council reporting up to the board. This is exactly how it should work, and it's been really great to see. So thank you both, and I'm sure I'm missing some folks in my list, so please do forgive me, but a lot of people have helped to move these reports this year to the board. So thank you, Aria and Emma and everyone.
thank you,
I'm gonna
Dr. Moore.
put Aria and Emma back into the audience, so bear with me. Yeah, there goes Aria and Emma. All right, thank you.
There are 3 items of correspondence noted on the agenda. Now, Dr. Moore, I will turn it over to you for a brief superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Panico and everyone. I'm opening tonight with, it's really quite amazing. Now, I have a few students here tonight. We've met these 4 students before as we've honored them. I think all 4 of them are here. We've honored them for being National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. And along the way, that's a process, just to recap, where students enter the National Merit Scholarship competition through their junior year PSAT scores. And those who score high enough go through several different rounds on the way to competing for the National Merit Scholarship. Now, roughly 0.5% of the 1.5 million students who take the PSAT ultimately qualify for their scholarship. And there are years where we have no one. It's rare to even have one winner. But I'm really quite pleased to share tonight that this year we have 4 winners of that scholarship here at Central. So I'm going to ask them to come up, and if we can get some pictures. We've been working with them during the school day to give them a certificate and get some photos with their counselor, but I thought it would be important for the boards to recognize them tonight. So they can certainly come up with anyone who's here with them. I have Salam Ambaugh, I have Allison Cedarbaum, Julia Granado, and Braden Quintard. Come on up, guys. And Mr. Brandt, come on up too. So come on, turn around. Mr. Brandt's going to get a picture of you with the board here. All right, excellent work. Thank you so much. Thank you. Again, I just want to reiterate, as I said, there are years where we have no people who win this scholarship. There are years that we have one person. I've never seen in my career a year with one school that had 4. And I don't know if that's groundbreaking or record setting here at Central, but it certainly feels like it. So we'll confirm that. But 4 winners of this scholarship is pretty amazing. So once again, congratulations and excellent work for the 4 of you there. We have on the agenda as well our students of the month for the month of April and our staff recognitions. And I just want to point out with our staff recognitions, Students nominate these staff members each month, and under this program, Mr. Estrada and Mr. Brandt coordinate this. I'm pleased to see the diversity of roles represented here tonight. Truly wonderful people, and so gratifying that they've been recognized for their work by our students. And each month that we run that program, I know we get a lot of nominations from our students for those distinctions. So excellent to hear from our students, and just a reminder again of the family that we have here. Now, I want to just share some updates on a couple of big topics. I don't have a big slide presentation for you tonight, but I did want to walk through a couple of points with you. First, on our reopening progress. Here we are in May, and we're still using that term reopening, but it's sort of the guidance from the state and the regime that we're under. We're still under our reopening plan. And tonight we move forward with a lot of hope. Since our last meeting, we've reported only 6 student cases and no staff cases. And if you recall, just a few short weeks ago, and it's been a short month since our last meeting because our April meeting was late, I was concerned about the number. Although I talked about the data heading in the right direction, I had to talk about large numbers of cases since our prior update. But now we've only had 6 since our last update. And we've also seen the pandemic metrics in the regional reports sink lower and lower. So in some ways, it feels like the bottom is coming out of this pandemic in a pretty significant way for us. And we're starting to see some normalcy through the clouds, certainly. We're on track to move to 5 days in school next week. We'll not be able to move to full days until, of course, indoor masking and social distance requirements relax, particularly the requirements for 6 feet of distance between students when they're removing masks to eat lunch. We don't anticipate those restrictions lifting this school year. And even if those restrictions were to lift now, we're at a point in the school year at which it's getting to be too late to make the arrangements, including cafeteria staffing, that would be necessary to support lunch for large numbers of students this school year. And Governor Murphy today made some announcements that led us to believe that nothing would be changing in his guidance for this year for schools indoors. He did announce today that Executive Order 175, which is the order that includes all of the masking and other restrictions that we've been under all year, that executive order will expire at the end of this school year, but not until the end. And we certainly hope this means full days for all students in person at the start of next school year. He's talking as if it does. Turning back a moment to this school year, prom and graduation planning certainly continues now. We're more and more hopeful for a single graduation ceremony outside on the field as outdoor restrictions and limits relax. And we're expecting some more announcements about lifting outdoor limits this week. The graduating class of 2021 hasn't really had the chance to be together as a class since last school year. So we're excited about the opportunity to bring them together for commencement. We are also certainly gearing up for prom at Steel Stacks. That's shaping up nicely and should also prove to be a wonderful event just across the river. Hunterdon Medical Center has finished their vaccination clinics here on campus, and they're moving to a drive-through clinic on their campus as the vaccination distributors have really put a dent in demand in Hunterdon County. Here at Central, Hunterdon Medical Center administered nearly 10,000 doses of the Moderna vaccine to roughly 5,000 people over the past couple of months. And we're also pleased to have worked with the Department of Health to coordinate vaccinations for hundreds and hundreds of school staff members across the whole county, not just for Central staff. So proud and honored to have assisted there, and certainly proud that Central took a leadership role in that effort. So as we look at where we are in terms of the pandemic, in summary, things are looking brighter, and we're extremely grateful for all the cooperation and hard work this year from staff, families, students, and all of our community partners and members. And I thank the board certainly for its support during this year. It's all been crucial to ensure that we didn't have significant long-term disruptions to remote instruction for all of our kids, and that we've been able to maintain and even grow our in-person program. Turning now to some news on our racism, equity, and diversity efforts. Tonight, I announce the launch of a web page that will serve to track our district's equity work. This page includes the report that I gave to the board last month. It includes a recording of my presentation of that report last month, and it also includes a recording of our February staff bias training. You can access this page from the quick links section of our website. If you go to our homepage, that's in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see an equity, diversity, and racism link in that drop-down quick links box, and everything's laid out on that page with links to all of those materials. We'll continue to add to this section as our work continues, and we invite everybody to keep an eye on this page for those updates. In this work, we're focused on our next conversations with staff members. And as I discussed at last month's meeting, we'd received a lot of positive and constructive feedback from staff on our anti-bias training. One of the most echoed pieces of feedback revealed a need to have smaller scale conversations pointed at practical applications. This feedback led us to retool our plan moving forward, though we'd planned for an additional large-scale webinar-style bias training session near the end of the year. We've been working, as I said last month, to meet folks where they are and to give them that smaller setting that they've asked for. So we've been talking with our HCEA Anti-Racism Committee and others to plan these smaller scale conversations through the rest of this school year and beyond. Topics include everything from responding to bias incidents to understanding microaggressions and their impact on our school culture and climate, and much more. Our next steps then, just to reiterate, will be through those smaller group conversations rather than any large-scale webinar-style training. And a good number of these meetings may occur on a specific date or two over the next school year, or over the remaining months of the school year, rather, or also may be spread throughout the rest of the summer. Under this heading of equity, I'd also like to address some of the feedback that we've received on our transgender policy, which the board approved unanimously through 2 readings over the past couple of months. And just by way of describing the timeline here, this particular policy has its roots in New Jersey law from 2017, and that law mandated the Department of Ed to publish guidance for schools for working with transgender students. That guidance was released later in 2018, and our policy vendor provided model policy for districts in 2019, and that's the policy that the board has now adopted. There was a delay from the release of that model policy until we adopt it just over the last couple of months, and I apologize for that. Certainly, the model policy went under review here in several school offices, and we worked to adjust practices so that they would be in compliance immediately upon board approval. Many districts passed the policy throughout the first half of 2019 and also into the 2019-20 school year. If you survey our area, for example, you'll find the identical policy in Reddington and Flemington Raritan, Del Val, North Hunterdon Voorhees, and more. Through a regular policy audit this year, we noted that the policy had not yet been approved here at Central, and we also felt that it was important to ensure that all of our equity-facing policies were up to date as we do this important work. So we scheduled its first reading in March. I do have to note the policy does not include anything that's not in the guidance or the statute and does not leave anything out from either of those. Policy includes, for example, the allowance for non-transgender students to utilize private or gender-neutral facilities if they desire. The policy that's on our website now matches the draft policy that the Board of Ed considered on first and second readings. We do update policies on our website after the board has approved them, and that's what happened here. And that replaced the older 2015 policy that we had initially up there, and we replaced it with the version that our policy vendor had provided to schools going back to 2019. Moving forward, the board agenda on our website will make policy drafts available to the public as part of the agenda through our new agenda system. And we have a couple, for example, on the agenda tonight. Speaking of our agenda system, we've transitioned to Board Docs, an online board agenda and document management system. This has been in the works for, gosh, over a year, Ms. Corbin, that we've been working on this. But as it came together over the past couple of months, it's not only made agenda construction much more efficient for us, but will also continue to enhance transparency and ease of access for the public. Board members have their own separate access to the site, but the public can access it in a couple of ways. Ms. Tucker, our communications officer, is still posting pop-ups on our website when we have an upcoming meeting. The pop-up has a link to a page devoted to that current meeting, and that page will always carry a link into the board docs system so that people can get to the agenda for that specific meeting. We always post the agenda, always have, as far as I'm aware, post the agenda on the Friday before a meeting. We also have a link on our Board of Education page. If you go to the website and go to Board of Ed, from there you can access the whole system and a list of meetings by date in a library format. We only have a few meetings in there now, but as that library grows, it'll become much more useful for everyone. Videos, minutes will also appear in the system. And I want to thank Ms. Corbin and in her office, Ms. Spitzer, and so many others, our executive assistants, particularly in my office, Ms. Egan, and also in the business office, Ms. Holsley, who shouldered a lot of behind the scenes work here. Our directors and managers, and Mrs. Tucker, who manages our website, they've all made this transition so successful. We were dreading it a little bit, but it's turned out to be, I think, a lot easier than we thought it might be. So I appreciate all the hard work that went into making that available for all of us for tonight's meeting. Just some last bits and pieces here. There are several items tonight pointed at the 2021-2022 school year, particularly listed under section G, that's organizational items on the agenda. These are required appointments to various state mandated and other roles, approvals, readoptions, and more. We'll have more of these in June as we gear up to head into the summer and prepare for next school year. I do also want to point out a calendar change for this school year, which appears in the Student Life and Programs section of the agenda. We have an additional emergency day, and we're required to give it back to staff and students as a holiday. So it's an unspent emergency day because we were able to do some virtual days in light of the weather this year. In a typical year, we'd save this for Memorial Day weekends, but in this most unpredictable year, we wanted to hold on to it for as long as possible in case we needed it, and will therefore take it on Monday, June 21st. And that's the calendar change that you're seeing, is to declare Monday, June 21st as a holiday from school. As a result of this, I'm going to recommend either Monday, June 14th or Monday, June 28th as our next Board of Education meeting rather than the 21st. And I understand in talking with Mr. Panico, we might be settled in on the 28th, but we'll continue to talk through that, absolutely, if anybody has any other thoughts. I believe that brings me to the end of my list of items tonight. We don't have any HIBs to vote on tonight for our HIB report. So Mr. Panico, thank you, and I turn it back to you.
Oh, I got unmute. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Turns out muting is also a problem not on Zoom calls. Now is the time on the agenda for any items of residence forum. So items on the agenda. If you want to speak, come up to the podium, sign in, state your name. This is for items on the agenda. It will be 3 minutes maximum, with a maximum total session of 30 minutes. So if you're on the online thing, press *9 to raise your hand. There was one online that I'm going to kick to the second public comment because it's not related to the first one. It's not really anything on the agenda. Any action items on the agenda? Right.
Franklin Tenney, Raritan Township. There are 4 continuing education items being approved on the budget tonight. Number 1 is teaching LGBTQIA literature in secondary schools. Number 3 is something called the NACAC Anti-Racist Institute on College Counseling. I'm glad to hear that the training has been released. One of Ms. Edmonds' graphics that she shared is that using property tax dollars for education is racist. So we've got $78 million worth of racists here, or we have people that spent a bunch of our money on mindless dribble. One of the other things in her handout that's racist is BIPOC teaching white people. Expecting them to teach white people is racist. So for these 2 items and all of them in general, First of all, I don't know how as a board you can vote in clean conscience to spend taxpayer money for anything because it's racist. Number two, can the board assure us that no people of color will be forced to teach white teachers that go for this continuing education? Because that too is racist, according to the person that you spent our money on to embarrass our teachers. And Mr. Moore indicated that there was a bunch of positive feedback from the training sessions. I'm wondering why we're retooling it if that was the case, if there was no negative feedback. And if there was negative feedback, why wasn't that mentioned here?
Alrighty, no further public comment. Let's move through the agenda items. Forgive me as I try to get accustomed to board docs. Up first, we do have organizational items. So these are not coming out of a committee. These are items that we are renewing every year. So can I have a motion on G1 through G15, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hughes,
Yes.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Yes.
Mr. Nichol,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell, Mr. Panico,
Yes.
Dr. Charney,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can I have an update from the Student Life and Program Committee, please?
Yes, Student Life and Program Committee met on Monday, May 10. There are 4 items for action tonight, one of which has already been addressed with regards to the school year calendar. That's action 1.4. 1.1 is tuition and transportation. Ms. Cangelosi Haid provided brief information regarding these tuition agreements. Some of these agreements are for extended school year tuition services, and some of them account for one-on-one professionals. We are pleased also that we have 2 potential exchange students coming. One student was previously approved to attend for this past school year, but did not attend for obvious reasons. I believe that student is coming from Spain. And then we have another student coming from Thailand. Very excited about those exchange students. We have a new activities club for approval tonight. Mr. Brand provided information to the committee about this proposed Portuguese club. The club has secured a volunteer advisor, Maria Amorim, and proposed activities include interpretations at local schools, participation in local cultural events, and exploration and celebration of the Portuguese culture. So that's it for the Student Life and Program Committee. And I'd like to move 1.1 through 1.4 for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Is that H1 through H4? I'm trying to make sure I'm getting the right.
Yeah.
Okay, H1 through H4. Sorry, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on these items? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hughes,
Yes.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Yes.
Mr. Nichol,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell, Mr. Panico,
Yes.
Dr. Charney,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can I have an update from the Operations and Transportation Committee, please?
Yes, Operations Transportation met on May 11th virtually. We discussed some construction projects, including looking to award the 910 emergency generator project to VPV Electric. Also, we're looking to authorize Edwards Engineering to pursue necessary approvals from the state to construct dugouts on the softball fields. Also authorizing SSP Architects to revise the long-range facilities plan for those. We're looking to withdraw an additional $11,600 from capital reserve for the security camera upgrades project. We have a policy here on first reading for lead testing of water in schools. We have two policies on second reading, one for cooperative purchasing, one for property inventory. And we're looking to approve the application and acceptance of coronavirus response and relief monies. And the rest of the items as shown on the agenda. And with that, I'd like to move items I1 through I15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hughes,
Yes.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Yes.
Mr. Nichol,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Panico,
Yes.
Dr. Charney,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Can I have an update from the Personnel Committee, please?
Personnel met virtually on May 12th. We discussed and reviewed the motions that are on the agenda tonight. I'll highlight a few. First, we have two retirements. One is a custodian, Ronald Bowlby, who's been here for 19 years. And then we have the retirement of Eric Wasserman for a whopping 45 and a half years he's dedicated to the district. I know Dr. Moore is going to say a few words at the end of the report about Mr. Wasserman. I'll just share that I don't know Mr. Wasserman. My children never had him, but I had tears in my eyes when I read the letter of his intent to retire. And I can tell from that that he was a fine man and teacher, and it's going to be a huge loss to the district. We have a lot of summer appointments. We have some professional development and a few leaves of absence. With that, I would like to move J1 through J15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just share, one of the things that I've been saying about Mr. Wasserman is it became clear to me when I arrived a few years ago that there, are certain people who kind of represent the soul of this place, and he's one of them. And I just hope that he passes that on as he leaves to someone else. Any big organization, I've shared this as well. Any big organization has devils and angels on its shoulder, and Was is definitely one of the angels on our shoulder here at Hunterdon Central. So we'll miss him. Again, 45 and a half years is something pretty amazing. But we also, Miss Vance from our ESL department on here as an addendum. She is a fixture in our department there, and Mr. Bowlby, one of our custodians, has put in a lot of time and dedication here at Central. Retirements are always bittersweet for us because we lose some really powerful, important folks from our organization, but they've earned everything that they're about to go off and do, and I wish them all well.
And I need to echo what you're saying. These are three individuals who every one of them brings something to Hunterdon Central that we would not have, that this place would miss, that people see as a fixture of this place had they not been around. And I could give you some examples. Dr. Moore, you called out Miss Vance. That program has come miles under her. She has held the weight of the ELL program in so many ways, and she has been a resource who went above and beyond to so many students day in and day out. It was truly impressive. Mr. Wasserman, 45 and a half years. I hate to do this to you, Mr. Wasserman. I know you're watching, but when you started here, the gas price was 59 cents a gallon. That's bananas. So I just have to say that you have been a fixture here as well, from the YouTube videos of you jumping on desks to liven up your classroom, to what you've had to do at the bowling team, and to the letter that you wrote that was beautiful, for lack of a better word. You can't read it and not be emotional and not feel the love that you have for this place as you wrote it. And the last, Mr. Bowlby, who, Ron has been a fixture on this campus, who most students don't even know his name, but I guarantee they know him. If you've been around this campus, the day before winter break, you would often see Santa Claus walking the roofs of Hunterdon Central. And that was Mr. Bowlby. That was the life that he brought into this school. That was the love that he had for making kids smile. And he would dress up like Santa with his big white beard that he has and walk the roofs and look in classroom windows and make everybody smile before they went for break. So these are three folks that we're going to miss. We're going to miss dearly, and Hunterdon Central will never replace them, but we will continue to keep the spirit that they bring here as we move forward with our work. So thank you, folks. Any further comment? Hearing none, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mrs. Hughes,
Yes.
Mrs. Kellogg,
Yes.
Mr. Nichol,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Panica,
Yes.
Dr. Charney,
Yes, and if I may, I'd like to extend congratulations to all the retirees. Special thanks to Mr. Wasserman, who taught my daughter 16, 17 years ago. Her message to Mr. Wasserman was happy retirement. Thank you for the great math education. Best of luck.
and Dr. Nguyen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Any additional business or board comments at this time? Hearing none. Now is the residence forum for any items on or off the agenda. Same as last time, 3 minutes each, please, 30 minutes total. I'm going to read the public comment that was submitted via the forum. It's quick. David Summers says, I would like to thank Jimlyn Corbin and the others involved in transitioning the board agenda to the new platform board docs. It's much easier to understand the scope of the meeting with all the attachments readily available. So thank you for that comment. Anybody else, please come on up to the podium. State your name, sign in, please. That's going to be important for us. If you're on the Zoom, *9 raises your hand.
I just share too, piggybacking on that comment about board docs. Any feedback that folks have for us, we welcome as we continue to grow in our implementation of this new system. We're excited about it, but do please let us know if anything is working particularly well or not particularly well for you. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Victoria Brito, White House Station. So I was here last meeting and Jeff, you had some action items, I think, that I asked about, and I don't think they were shared yet. One was the cost of the anti-bias training, which I didn't see and I could have missed it, but I don't. Could you tell us what that cost the taxpayers?
Ms. Brito, go through your questions, then I'll address what
Okay.
I can when you're done.
The other thing is, and this is quite a disappointment because I actually had more faith in you. You actually lied to me and the entire public last meeting when you said the schedule was not, the third training was not scheduled yet. It was actually scheduled back in February and it's on all of the staff and teachers' calendars. It was May 27th between 1 and 2:50 p.m. I don't really know that I care for an explanation. It just shows to your character and the issues that I currently have with you running our schools, and I think quite a few others. I also would like to ask why you haven't addressed. I know Mr. Lentini came up and asked the same question, but why have you not addressed the negative comments on the bias training from your staff and teachers? Why is it only the positive you're bringing out? Which I also know that the union president went to all the staff and teachers and asked and encouraged positive feedback, which is concerning as it is from a union perspective. So I think those are the questions I have for now. If you want to explain any of them, definitely the cost. And if you care to explain why you lied to the public last meeting, that would be fantastic.
Can we close the loop after? Can we close the loop at another time rather than respond now?
No, I took time out of my day. Hold on. I took time out of my
Ms.
day.
Brito.
No. See, I work full time. I'm
Mhm.
sure you do too.
I do.
I had a lacrosse game, thankful all the way down in Rumson Fairhaven that I went.
Yep.
Came all the way back, sat in traffic, rushed to drop off my children, came all the way back. As you saw, I walked in a few minutes late.
Yep.
Right? So I think I'm owed an answer. And not only am I owed an answer, an explanation. And I do have one more question, but why I was lied to. Not only was I lied to, the entire public was lied to.
So we do not respond to public comment. I know we did to an extent last time. I will close the loop. Here's what I could tell you. I don't know the cost of the anti-bias training. I will get it to you and I will
It
close.
took you a month and you don't know the cost.
I will get it to you and close the loop. You have my word. I
Okay,
will get it
when
to
are
you.
you getting it to me? How about we close the loop at the date?
Give me till the end of next week and I'll
End of
follow.
next week?
Yep, and I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
The training not being scheduled, I will, as far as I know, it was on
Right
a
here.
schedule. Yep, I'm aware. It was on a schedule and canceled. That's why it's no longer being scheduled. And the third thing is the negative comments. We've obviously taken all comments, positive and negative, into shaping how we're moving forward with the anti-bias training. So listen, we know there have been negative comments. We've heard negative comments, we've heard positive comments, and we've heard neutral ones.
But you
They're all
felt the
there.
need, or Jeff felt the need to mention the positive comments for those people who hadn't been here prior. Maybe
Understood.
didn't have the opportunity, maybe don't have the time to go through the board meetings in the past.
Mhm.
Why were there not comments from Jeff that there were negative comments as well? 'Cause
Understood.
It misled the public, but then again, we have him on record lying to the public last time. So apparently that's okay to mislead them. At least it wasn't a complete blatant lie.
Understood. I appreciate the feedback on not including the total snapshot of the comments, and I'll take that as we move forward. Absolutely.
Okay, and the other question I had, besides I have every screenshot of if anybody wants to see it, I have it of the training. So we can see what is actually where the first one is white supremacy. First thing, even though you said it wasn't last time. So anyway, but I do want to ask this question of the rest of the board, not Jeff, not you. Why does no one else speak up?
I know you didn't ask me. I'm here to represent the board. The training, literally, we go
But
through.
they can speak, right? I mean, let me just ask,
They-
are they allowed to? I've been to plenty of board meetings in my
Yeah,
lifetime. They
can
can speak. They just choose
they
not
can
to?
they can speak as individuals. I'm the one that speaks on behalf of the board.
Okay, so if I were to ask an individual how they felt, they can answer. They don't have to, but they can.
Yeah, correct. And I'd recommend the best
I'm
place to
not
do
going
that
to,
is.
I'm not going to put anybody on the
Okay,
spot. That's
thank you.
fine. I just know that we have votes coming up and seats being held. And I don't really understand why I voted for someone who hasn't said a word, one way or the other. I'd rather know where you stand rather than not saying absolutely nothing.
Good
So
feedback.
I appreciate you speak for the board. I find it very disheartening that the board doesn't speak for themselves. And I'll let it go for there, but I'll hold you to next week, end of next week.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have to follow up with you, right? You'll follow up
Correct.
with me? All right,
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Mr. Bartlett, we have an online one. So if you want to sign in, we'll go through the online speaker, then turn it over to you. Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Loretta B, online speaker, *6 unmutes after you get promoted to the panelist. Hold on 1 second for us.
Okay, Loretta, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, I am speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, name is Loretta Borowski, Flemington Borough, and I would like to commend the board for undertaking, at least attempting to undertake, the introduction of anti-bias training. It really encourages me that our community is perhaps moving in the right direction. I'm really I shouldn't say startled, because sadly I'm really not, but I'm alarmed and very disappointed at my fellow residents of Hunterdon County for their visceral and angry reaction to this training, which maybe kind of tells us that it's long overdue. That's it. Thank you again for advocating for the correct side of history. Thank you.
One thing that I want to make sure we're doing in all of our public comment is I want to make sure that we're addressing the board. We're not addressing each other. And I want to make sure that we're doing it with respect. I come up here and respect everybody that's in this room. And I hope that you guys and expect that you guys respect each other. So I want to set that tone. I don't condone disrespect, threats of violence, foul language. I want to make sure that this is a professional environment. Public comment comes to the board, and we move forward that way. Mr. Bartley.
Thanks, Sean Bartley, East Amwell. I'd like to know what the purpose of this portion of the meeting is. Because you just said that you don't respond to the residents. So why do we come here and speak?
It's funny because I'm going to respond, even though we say we don't.
You said that you don't.
Yeah, and the policy says that we don't. The point of this is to take feedback.
And what do you do with it?
We use it to shape and guide our decisions. As you've seen, there have been things that literally have, from that podium, helped us change our decisions that we make here every day, with everything from resources that we use to board docs to how we communicate to items of transparency. We had a board member bring one up in board comments about recording meetings, and these are things that we take back. And there are actions and there are noticeable times where we've moved the needle based on public feedback.
Okay. Why have we gone away from the question of where people live? I thought that the reason that we asked that was to ensure that the people that were speaking were in the sending district.
Yeah, I do not believe that I can limit public comment based on geography. I know it's called a residence forum, and you could argue that they're not residents, but I do not believe that in a Robert's Rules of Order, Oprah guided public meeting, I can limit comments based on residency. If I'm wrong, I'll say that I'm wrong, but I don't think I can.
Okay. Another question I have is about the ongoing COVID clinics.
Yes, sir.
I've tried to find out through 2 Oprah requests how this started, who initiated the great idea of having 5,000 outsiders in our high school when the parents and the families can't come into high school. I was also ensured that it would only be happening on days that the school wasn't in session. So last Wednesday, there was a clinic at this high school. Was school in session? Does Polytech not count?
Polytech, I don't think Polytech uses this facility, which is where the clinic was.
They use the same parking lot. My son was late to class because there was all the cars in the parking lot. So they shouldn't be here, especially when the students are here. So that needs to stop. And if we're going back to 5 days a week now, good.
It's stopping.
Good. All right. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Michelle Anthony, I do have one more online. Oh, one more. You can step up and sign in. We'll Hope Cohen. If you would like to, once we promote you up to the panelist, actually now you can press *6 to unmute.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure.
Nope, we could hear you, but then you went mute again, Ms. Cohen. Hope Cohen, we're not hearing you right now. There we
Okay,
go.
can
You
you-
look unmuted
can you
now.
hear
Go
me
ahead.
now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so I will hang up on the phone portion and just talk through the Zoom. I'm calling in to endorse the action of the board and of the superintendent in taking up the anti-bias training. It is, I want to say, as a taxpayer, and yet without children in the school, that I am proud to be a taxpayer to support education, and that we need an educated civil society. And to me, this question of anti-bias, anti-racism is fundamental to creating civil society. So I absolutely support using tax dollars for that purpose. I also want to say that it is completely within the rights, point out that it's completely within the rights of any employer to require specific training of employees. That could be safety training, that could be anti-harassment training, that could be anti-bias training, that could be arithmetic. So I actually don't even understand why there would be an objection to staff training as directed by the school board and the superintendent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on one second, Melissa.
Yeah.
Try that again now.
Melissa Gardner, Flemington. This letter was provided to me by a school employee. There was a lot of discussion at the last Board of Education meeting about the mandatory anti-bias training that staff attended on February 25th and March 4th. This letter is a collaborative effort by staff to explain our experience. We welcome diversity and anti-bias training. We stand proudly with those in the Hunterdon Central community who are committed to efforts to reduce and eliminate acts of racism, bias, and hatred. However, the anti-bias training that we experienced did not meet any of these goals. In fact, the training we were subjected to has left us feeling upset, confused, and scared. We feel upset at the blatant attacks on all law enforcement officers and the belief that if we support law enforcement, that is evidence of our inherent racism and white privilege. Prior to the first day of training, we were encouraged to watch a video that our trainer posted on her company website. In this video, our trainer declares, there are people everywhere experiencing racism through law enforcement that never make the media. It's built into the system. It's not just that there are bad apples, it's that the whole orchard is bad. It's built on white supremacy. Many of us have family, friends, and neighbors who proudly serve and protect our community. All of us rely on our dedicated school resource officers to protect us and our students. We are trained in our school safety drills to hide and cover and wait for law enforcement officers to respond in a crisis. The belief that our trainer espouses that the whole orchard is bad is absolutely offensive to us. We feel confused because the training missed an opportunity to engage with our colleagues in a meaningful way that could have fostered greater understanding and empathy. We welcome engaging in such dialogues, but that is not what occurred in our training. Instead, we were ordered to identify where we were on a continuum of acknowledging our white privilege. We were then instructed to join a corresponding breakout room. There was a separate breakout room for staff who identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. An administrator was assigned to each of the breakout rooms to monitor the conversations. Let us assure you, if you want to divide and isolate people, this is a very effective way to accomplish that mission. We feel scared because we realize that a process is occurring that serves to fracture the relationships between staff and create a work environment that fosters hostility, division, and resentment. Prior to the training, we were given rules by Dr. Moore to follow. Two of the rules were to stay engaged and allow and experience discomfort. Given these clearly stated rules, any attempt to opt out of this specific training or express discomfort would be a direct act of insubordination. The possibility of retribution and retaliation is very real for us. At 2 minutes and 16 seconds into the Board of Education meeting last month, following a public statement from a community member regarding the training, Mr. Panico asked Dr. Moore directly, when is the next training? To which Dr. Moore responded, right now we are evaluating what our next training will be and when it will be. Well, you should all know that every single employee at Hunterdon Central knows that the next training was scheduled months ago and is scheduled for May 27th from 1 to 2:50. We hope that you now understand why we are upset, confused, and scared, and why we have absolutely no confidence or trust in Dr. Moore and his leadership. After all, it says a lot about Dr. Moore's integrity and character that he can so easily lie to the president of the board. A quick note from me. Between the training video, which we have all seen, and the concerns of teachers who are uncomfortable with the past 2 trainings, It is very clear we are dealing with a racist, progressive left narrative, which we are all seeing spread throughout this country. Parents everywhere are standing up to this, and now we are as well. It is clearly political, and politics do not belong in this school. I have discussed this training with both of my children, and they are both disturbed and upset. To be clear, I will never allow my children to take part in being indoctrinated, brainwashed to believe that based solely on the color of their skin, that they are inherently racist, that they are white supremacist, that they have white privilege, or that they have more power based upon some wheel that I have seen supplied by this training. The training is based on the color of skin, which is the definition of racist. I have told them that they will not participate in any of this Marxist, socialist ideology, and any teacher who attempts to discuss or teach this to my children will hear from me immediately. This is a dangerous, divisive ideology that, if allowed to continue, will destroy our country. This will never bring unity. Thank you.
Frank Lenzenny, Raritan Township.
Frank, before you go, one quick thing. We have nobody with a hand up online, nobody standing up in person. We are at half an hour, so you're going to be the last speaker.
Okay. The fact that we haven't had the cost for that training released to us yet is completely unacceptable. Mr. Davidson, hugely disrespectful of you to be sitting there shaking your head while Ms. Gardner is up here. Again, unacceptable. And if you have a problem with her definition of it as Marxist, you should read and listen to the training materials, because individualism is racist. Objectivity is racist. Having a sense of urgency is racist. Those are common themes in Marxist countries. So the fact that you all nod your head and you all applaud and you're all in lockstep, I bet that half of you couldn't get halfway through the alphabet soup that you just approved for continuing education for our teachers. So I won't put any of you on the spot, but I guarantee that half of you don't get past the B in LGBTQIA or whatever the latest alphabet soup is for the training that you approved to spend our money. And to our caller who doesn't understand the difference between public and private industry can require people to take training. The difference here, this business, we own it, you don't. So you can't require our employees and our community members to do things that we don't agree with. And again, the fact that a month has gone by and we don't know the cost of that training, and maybe some of you don't, you're not even curious, is completely unacceptable. So we got, like we were told that there was positive feedback. We do know this. We were told a month ago that it wasn't that much. But apparently none of you asked a question between then and now, well, how much actually is not much? Because to a lot of us, reading some of the drivel that you paid for with our money, if it was more than $5, it was a waste of money. So you're shaking your head, Mr. Davidson, I guess you don't believe in individualism. Well, you can walk all through this school and find the remnants of when this school taught that individualism was a good thing. We still have bells. You know what the bells are for? Urgency. We still, I assume and I hope, in our science labs and our math classes teach objectivity. But that's racist according to the training that you spent our money on. And that's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing that you sit here and you want to be the latest and the coolest and up to date with everything. That's what you spent our money on. Absolute garbage. And you can all answer this for the next meeting. Are the resource officers that you spend our money on racists? Or did you waste our money on moronic training that told us that all police are racists? You have one answer to give us at next meeting. It's not going to go away. We're not going to move away. We're not going to retool. You can either disavow some of the things in that training and apologize to us for not vetting it or being hoodwinked by your superintendent, or not. But it's completely unacceptable what you spent our money on. We need to know how much you spent, why you spent it, and what the process was to get a radical yoga instructor to fulfill a need that's not, despite what Superintendent Moore said, a state law. It's not. He tried to finesse it tonight. It's not. He's absolutely wrong.
Thank you. Guys, we're closing public comment. We're closing public comment. Guys, I get it. I get it. We weren't, you guys weren't even in line. We're at the half an hour. Come back next month, please. We'll be fine. Do we want a motion to extend public comment by 5 minutes for one? Do we have a motion to extend public comment for 5 more minutes for these 2 students?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just the students. Thank you.
Shared, oh, can you hear me? We can do a
Yep.
shared statement to spare you all a little
Thank
bit of
you.
time.
So my name is Allison Cedarbaum. I'm a student at Hunterdon Central. I'm from Flemington.
My name is Salam Ambal. I'm also from Flemington and a student at Hunterdon Central.
So we just want to provide a student perspective on some of these issues. I think we've sort of noticed that's been lacking at several of these board meetings, and thank you for extending the time for us. We do truly appreciate it. So we're just going to go after some of the issues that were brought up. There were several topics that we just want to address. So the first one is with a earlier question that was brought up regarding a ban on or rather allowing BIPOC teachers to avoid teaching white students. I'm not 100% sure what this is, but we would love to give the board or Dr. Moore the opportunity to clarify upon this, just because we hardly imagine this is something that was explicitly the action of the board, but we would love to hear about the efforts that are being made to provide more nuance in the system and allowing for a more comfortable working environment and learning environment for students and teachers.
All right, and apologies if I speak a bit quickly. So one of the things that I wanted to address was with regard to a concern, part of the training that was addressing how property taxes are racist. I personally haven't received the training, so I can't speak specifically to what was said by the trainer and so on and so forth. But to be frank, there are trends of socioeconomic inequalities that are rooted in racially targeted practices, including redlining, blockbusting, so on and so forth. So it's not to say explicitly that property taxes are racist, but the practices in which they were established resulted in a system of inequality that is based at least in part in race. And I think that was probably what they were trying to get at. Another concern that I just wanted to address was with regard to critiques of the material for the training. Honestly, I personally would be incredibly concerned if there weren't things to be fixed and things being fixed. Nothing is perfect the first try. To say something is honestly a lie to yourself and those who are receiving the training. So I appreciate the fact that changes are being made, taking into consideration the concerns brought forth here and outside of this space. Another thing that I wanted to address was with regard to just the trainings and how effective they are in having these kinds of conversations. It can be very, very easy to talk about these issues in a very black and white manner, to be frank. To speak in absolutes when these are in fact very nuanced intersectional issues that take into consideration not only race, but socioeconomic status, cultural background, ethnocentric issues, and so on and so forth. It goes beyond just like something that's very easy to say in a quick statement. And it goes beyond what you can receive in a very brief training. I appreciate the fact that there are conversations going to be included in future trainings, because you really can't move forward unless you have the opportunity to understand the people that you are working with, rather than having somebody talk at all of you all at once. And so for those reasons, I know trainings can be very difficult and they can feel very inorganic, but they provide an opportunity to create an organic community in which people can feel comfortable talking about these issues. And it can be very difficult dealing with change. I know no one really likes it. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable, but it's really what needs to happen, because there are people whose voices aren't being heard and don't feel like they can be heard because of the systems that are in place. And it's not to blame a single individual. That's often what happens in spaces like this, because you feel like when someone's talking about an issue that ties into your life, you immediately connect it to an element in which you may not have experienced something as positive. So I think it can be quite difficult to realize that the blame is not on an individual, but rather the systems of oppression that we are all faced with. And Allison, I can pass it back to you.
Thank you. I think Salam covered everything very beautifully, but there are just some more things that I wanted to add in. So one, with regards to the issue of law enforcement, I do want to just shed some light. And of course, again, I was also not in these staff trainings as a student, so I can't speak to exactly what was stated, but in the way that political conversation has been going in our country for the past few months, there's an emphasis on, yes, the fact that our law enforcement system, much like property taxes, much like the way that our society is built up in political, social, geographic ways, there are several factors of that are rooted in racism, but that's not meant to attack the individuals who are living in those societies, living within those systems. It's not meant to attack the individuals who choose to work in law enforcement. It's meant to tackle the issue at hand because there are systemic issues. And it's not saying that anyone who chooses to interact with those realms of society are bad people. And it's far more rooted in the fact that we are living in a society where these issues are inevitable and there are people who are impacted by them. So I want to transition that into discussing the issue of white privilege. I know that those words were brought up and I know that they bring a whole lot of baggage into the conversation, but it's incredibly important to acknowledge that everyone goes about their lives with some semblance of privilege, whether it be racial, whether it be because of their sexual identity, whether it be because of their gender, rather sexual orientation, or the way that they were raised, or the place that they went to school. We go to a very well-funded school, and that provides us privilege. But I also acknowledge the fact that as a white person in America, there are some things that are going to be easier for me than for other individuals. And that's not to say that that makes anyone who experiences that privilege an inherently bad person. Again, it's just to say that there are these issues within our society that we need to work towards justice, and we need to work against those issues because it will make our society more just and it will allow us to work towards the goals and the values that we are taught here at Hunterdon Central and that we are taught as members of the American society that I think we are all trying to just live within in a way that is equitable and just.
And as a final note, if you'll allow, you don't know what you don't know. To be completely frank, I think I know a decent amount of stuff right now, but I'm willing to bet in about 5 years, I'll be wondering what I was thinking. These trainings and just the conversations that arise out of it are an opportunity to engage with a part of the world that you probably haven't had an opportunity to. And so being shocked by that's very jarring, and it takes a second for people to adjust. And on both sides, it's very difficult at times to give people the moment that they need when they maybe don't say quite the right thing and are trying to learn. And so I think just having the patience with one another to take that time to learn something from one another, to learn something from people who have a background in something that you have no past experience with, whether it be in terms of how they grew up, their socioeconomic status, their racial background, their family dynamics, anything of the sort. All of that encompasses each of us as an individual. It doesn't really come down to a one person, just like white people, Black people, people of color versus a different group of people. It comes down to individuals within a society of a diversity of backgrounds who create this mosaic that we call a country. And I think it's very important that we take the opportunity to learn more about people rather than just the boxes that they check when they fill out forms. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We do not have executive session tonight, right, Dr. Moore?
Nope, we're good.
All righty.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, everyone. Appreciate the respectful dialogue. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.